Hi, I'm Elkie Holland from Prospectus IT Recruitment, and I'm here today with David Cooper, Technical Lead of BlueFinity. David, thank you for joining me.
Hi Elkie, good to be here.
Thank you. Today I was wondering if we could talk a bit about Evoke and Visual Studio.
Okay.
Just to start, am I right in thinking that Visual Studio is actually central to Evoke?
Yes, you are correct. It's absolutely central to the product, both in terms of, well, we don't say you might want to use Visual Studio with it. We absolutely expect people to be using Visual Studio with Evoke, both in terms of Visual Studio being the receiving point of the generated code, but also to use Visual Studio to onward enhance and embellish the generated code.
Okay, so it's central and essential. But what exactly does Evoke bring to Visual Studio?
Well, one way you could view Evoke is that it supercharges your Visual Studio development process. That's a kind of a very simple way of putting it.
What do you mean by supercharge?
Well, when the generator does its magic in terms of taking the design that you've created with the app designer and using that to drive the generation of Visual Studio code, what you get inside Visual Studio Code is a complete working solution that goes from UI to middle RESTful service website tier, right through to the .NET code that's ultimately interacting with the database backend. So you have put in place automatically a working structure that you can then onward enhance and tweak and embellish as you see fit.
Okay, so if I've used Evoke to create Visual Studio content,
yeah,
and then I go on to do some custom content,
mm-hmm.
if I want to generate and design and generate a bit more,
do some more bits,
yeah, would I lose the custom content I've created in Visual Studio?
Good point, and that's a question that lots of people ask actually, quite rightly. The way that the generator does its work is really carefully. So the structure of the Visual Studio project that gets created, or projects, is such that we very carefully tuck away the generated code and give you lots of places where you can insert your own custom content. And that guarantees that if you, because we expect people to run the generator over and over again.
Okay.
It's a very kind of natural cycle that you go through with Evoke. You do a bit of design work, you do a bit of generation, go into Visual Studio, do a bit of custom coding, go back, use the designer to maybe add some more features, regenerate, do some more work, testing inside Visual Studio. So the way that the generator is working is making sure that that kind of cycle is absolutely possible without affecting or overwriting or automatically losing the custom content.
Okay, now if I've got, say, my own favourite third-party components, Visual Studio, if I've used some of those, how does that sit within an Evoke generator project?
You're absolutely free to use whatever third-party components and libraries you want to use inside the projects that the generator creates, because all of the code that the generator produces is based on standard Visual Studio templates, and it means that you've got the standard Visual Studio environment. Within the designer, it's really easy to say, do you know what, on this page, this area here needs to contain a custom grid or spreadsheet or whatever component. And then within Visual Studio, you just literally plug it in and you take control over that little bit of the page. So it's really straightforward, and it's just done in the normal Visual Studio way.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.